Welcome to the Sweat Simple podcast. I'm Brooks, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you learn how to eat and exercise for real life, not just those perfect moments. Because let's be real, there is a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change, but I'll also be sharing practical, real-life application because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Today, we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and I feel like I say that at the start of every podcast episode, and maybe it's just because I geek out on this behavior change stuff, and I love helping you guys learn a little bit more about why we do the things we do, why fat loss feels hard, why it feels hard to follow through. But the reason I love this one so much is because this is honestly probably the most common thing that I help my clients work through. And it's also the thing that is most commonly misdiagnosed. When we think about fat loss and if we're having a hard time following through and if we're having a hard time being consistent, a lot of the times, the main reason behind that is because we have some sort of blind spot. We think the problem is X, but the problem is actually Y. So we keep focusing on X, and we're really not solving for Y. And with this topic specifically, a lot of us think that snacking is the issue. And we think that if we just get more healthy snack ideas, that will solve and that will be the fix. But the truth is that the problem isn't actually the snacking itself. The problem is why we're snacking in the first place. So if we keep focusing on the actual snack and that we're not eating healthy snacks, we're solving for X when we need to be solving for Y, which is the whole reason that we're snacking in the first place. And I want to say, if you are currently struggling with snacking in some capacity, whether it be nighttime snacking, whether it be grazing during the afternoon, whether it be picking things off your kid's plate, which is a version of snacking, it is extremely common. If you are experiencing this, you are not alone. I'm not exaggerating when I say probably 99% of my clients, when they come to work with me, their biggest thing that they want to solve for is the snacking. And if you're like my clients who come to work with me, you've probably tried a lot of different things to end this nighttime snack habit. You've said, all right, kitchen is closed after 7. I'm not going in there. You've opted for those healthier snacks like we talked about. You try brushing your teeth immediately after dinner. But at the end of the day, those carrots that you keep buying, the healthy little treats from Trader Joe's that you keep getting, those are never going to be a substitute for dark chocolate if we're not eating out of true hunger, which is what's happening most of the time. So like I said, if we keep trying to solve for X, we keep trying to just solve for eating unhealthy snacks because we think that's the issue, buying the carrots is never going to be the solution because the problem wasn't actually just eating snacks in the first place. The problem was why we're eating snacks. So no amount of carrots is going to fix that when we're not eating out of true hunger. And most of the time, we are not. There's usually a few different reasons why I see women turning to snacks at night or in general. Number one would be true hunger, especially if you have been restricting all day. So nighttime snacking out of true hunger is really common. If you are someone who doesn't really eat anything for breakfast, you don't really eat until lunch, maybe you even eat like a really small amount of lunch because you're really busy at work and you're trying to eat as little as possible, but then that catches up to you at night because you're so hungry, you have no fuel, and you basically make up for everything that you've just restricted throughout the day. So that does come up. Snacking out of true hunger at night does come up. The other reason I see women turning to snacks at night is out of habit. So if every night when you sit down to watch TV, you and your husband have a snack together, or if every night when, you finish dinner, you immediately get a sweet craving and you go and get something sweet, that's probably eating out of habit. We have created automatic cues about sitting in front of the TV, about finishing dinner, about maybe walking into the break room at work. We've created these automatic triggers in our brain to cue, hey, I'm quote unquote hungry. I'm not actually hungry, which we'll get into. I'm quote unquote hungry. I now need a snack. The other reason why I see people turning to snacks at night is to relieve stress or to relieve boredom. So if you find yourself anytime you don't have a lot of work to do, or you finally have some downtime and you're not really comfortable sitting in that downtime, you're not really sure what to do with yourself. So all of a sudden you find yourself wanting a snack. We're probably eating out of boredom. Or if you get like really bad news, or you find yourself feeling really anxious at night and you immediately get a craving for something sweet or something salty, we're probably eating to relieve stress. We're eating to relieve some boredom. And the last reason that I see popping up for snacking is just in general to relax. And I see this a lot with my clients who are moms. So if this is you, listen up. Once the kids go to bed, that feels like your you time. So once the kids go to bed, in order to relax, you're getting your cheese and crackers, maybe you're getting your wine. This is your time to unwind after a long day, and food is the thing that helps you do that. So lots of different reasons why we are snacking at night, and only one of them has to do with true hunger. And all of these are going to be solved in a different way. So we're not going to treat snacking out of true hunger the same way that we want to treat a habitual snack habit that we're trying to break. And we're not going to treat eating out of stress or boredom the same way that we would treat that habitual snack habit. This is why it's probably feeling so hard to quit, because you're trying to treat all of these different reasons why you're snacking the same. Or you're trying to treat all of these as if they were coming from true hunger. But like we talked about, if we're not snacking out of true hunger in the first place, that solve of healthier snacks, that solve of more nutrient dense snacks, that's not going to help. And you probably notice this. You probably notice that even when you buy the apples, even when you buy the carrots, even when you cook the hard boiled eggs to eat, those never sound good in the moment, so you're not eating them. Or maybe you are eating them and then 20 minutes go by and you still find yourself going for the Girl Scout cookies and going for the chips. If that's happening, we're probably not eating out of true hunger, and it's one of these other things. So we need to solve for one of these other things instead of only trying to solve for the snack itself, and instead of only trying to put that Band-Aid fix of the healthy snack. When we're eating out of comfort, when we're eating because it's a habit, when we're eating to relax, those are really powerful emotions, which is why it's feeling hard to just have the carrots, to just have the apple, to utilize self-control in the moment. These powerful emotions, this is when it feels extra hard to utilize self control in the moment. So, only trying to say, well, I'm just going to pick the healthier snack, or I'm just going to not snack tonight. I'm just going to rely on willpower. These strategies aren't working, even though we really want them to, even though we really want to lose fat, even though we really want to follow through. We're trying to overcome these really powerful emotions in a way that's not suited to do so. Because when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling activated, it's really hard to activate the part of our brain that's actually controls self-control. So if we're already feeling activated and we're already feeling all of these emotions, which is why we're turning to food in the first place, and your only strategy to not turn to food is to just have more self-control, that's not working, because the two parts of our brain aren't going to communicate at the same time, and we aren't going to be able to turn on that willpower, turn on that self-control when we're experiencing these really powerful emotions. So this is why it's so important to keep in mind. And that is why the snacks feel so much more enticing in the moment than your long-term fat loss goals. Because when we're experiencing these powerful emotions, our brain wants comfort. It wants to take the path of least resistance. And food especially chocolate, especially salty food, that is really enticing. That is what we want to choose in the moment. We don't want to think about, and we won't think about these long-term fat loss goals and the fact that we want to improve our health. We want immediate comfort. We want comfort in that moment when we're experiencing all of those uncomfortable emotions. That's why we immediately turn to food to help soothe us. That immediate soothe with food, it feels so necessary when we're eating out of emotion, when we're eating to relax, when we're eating to solve for that boredom. So we don't want to deal with the uncomfortable feeling of being bored, of being stressed, of being anxious. So instead of sitting in that discomfort, instead of allowing our brain to have those feelings, we immediately go to how can we soothe this? How can we get rid of this? And we're getting rid of it with food. And that is why just choosing the carrots, just trying to go for the apple, just trying to use self control, it's not working because we're trying to override this natural instinct of our brain to not give into that, to seek comfort. So, how can we overcome this in general? And the first a caveat that I want to give is that nighttime snacking is not inherently bad. Eating out of emotion is not inherently bad. Eating out of stress, eating out of habit, like these things aren't bad. The only time that they are quote unquote a problem is when they are starting to get in the way of your long-term health and fitness goals. And that's the point that most of my clients are getting to. They're getting to the point where they realize like, hey, in order to be successful, in order for consistency to happen, I have to break this nighttime snacking habit. So that's the only time that we need to deal with these things. And I always say too that when we are working through snacking for other reasons, sometimes it can feel scary to work through this because you're like, well, if I don't have food as my coping mechanism, like how am I going to deal with these emotions? We're not eliminating food as your coping mechanism. The goal during coaching and working together would be to give you other tools in your toolbox so that food isn't your only coping mechanism in these moments. But if we go back to your brain turning to food in these moments because we just want to feel comfortable, we want to feel safe, we want to remove those uncomfortable feelings of distress and boredom and stress in general, how we are going to overcome that, one tactic, one skill that I'm going to teach you today that I use my clients is to increase your discomfort tolerance. So increasing your ability to sit in those uncomfortable feelings. And the best way to do this is just to start practicing it. So when you get that initial urge to snack, can you sit in that discomfort for 2 minutes, 30 seconds? 5 minutes. Instead of immediately going and getting the chocolate, getting the chips like you typically do, can you just sit in that feeling? It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to feel good. But practicing that, practice sitting in that uncomfortable feeling is going to make it feel easier. And then eventually you'll get to the point where that feeling passes, the discomfort passes, and you recognize, oh, I survived that. I survived the uncomfortable feeling. So next time these uncomfortable feelings come up and you're experiencing them, that urge to immediately soothe them is less because now you know, oh, I've had this feeling before and I've not done anything about it and I've survived it. So I know that I can do that again. So that's what we're trying to do with increasing our discomfort tolerance. We're trying to increase our ability to sit in those uncomfortable feelings and not do anything about it. We're trying to get comfortable feeling those uncomfortable emotions and not feeling the need to instantly soothe them. So, first, if we are trying to just break this nighttime snacking habit, today we're really just getting into why this is happening in the first place. And it's really happening because we're just trying to solve for the wrong thing. We are trying to solve for, I need more healthy snacks, when what we really need to solve for is, why are we snacking in the first place? And most of the time, it's not related to true hunger. So, healthy snacks is not going to help us there. We need to solve for these deeper emotional reasons that we're snacking. And one way to do that would be to be increasing your discomfort tolerance. And if this is something you want help with, Like I said, I do this all day long with my one-on-one coaching clients. This is one of my favorite things to work with clients on. So you can apply for one-on-one coaching in the show notes because honestly, you guys, this is something you have to decide. I'm either okay living with this and letting and staying in this cycle for months on end, or you decide, hey, okay, I've had enough, and I've recognized at this point I can't solve this on my own. I definitely need help. I need the support, and apply for coaching because I would love to help you through that. So let me know if you have any questions. That's all I've got for you guys this week, and I'll talk to you soon.